the most. Those two things kind of go hand in hand. So if you're a person that can compartmentalize, simple boundaries can be put in place with your family members or your friend groups. If you're a person who wears their heart on their sleeve, more strict boundaries, potential relationship cutoffs might need to be put in place. This presentation isn't to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. It's more going to be like a self-reflection on what you are willing to tolerate and what you think you're capable of handling, and what you want out of these relationships with your peers. So no matter your personality or tolerance level, most of us can agree that we care deeply about how we're perceived, especially how our loved ones perceive us. And we don't want to be causing any harm. So although our passion for Palestinian rights is definitely warranted, we cannot ignore the way that we react in conversations can reinforce or create unfavorable views towards ourselves and the Palestinian rights cause. Therefore, it's crucial that we know how to navigate these interactions by preparing for our dialogues, reviewing communication strategies, and knowing when to create boundaries. After this brief presentation, we'll practice what we've learned in some small groups, followed by a large group discussion, and if time's allotted, we will have like questions and just an open it up to any questions people have. So when preparing for dialogue, the first step is honestly acknowledging internal and external barriers to conversations with your friends and family. Examples of internal barriers could be your personal lack of knowledge or education around Palestinian rights. External barriers might be the location you are, what form of media you're engaging with your loved ones, if it's on social media, via text, phone call, or in person, or video call. Before getting into a conversation, you'll need to ask yourself what you hope to achieve when you are speaking to that other person. For example, are you speaking in defense of your friends? Are you trying to open space for more dialogue in the future? Are you hoping to appeal to their empathy? Depending on the location and time you have, some things may not be possible to achieve, especially if you're at a niece's baby shower. You're not going to talk about the whole history of Palestinian rights activism there, nor is it probably the appropriate place to do so. So do your homework, have a list of resources readily available. Sometimes people want to have something tangible to walk away from a conversation. So if on the backs, I think of the pages that you grabbed, there are a simple list of resources that you can share with your friends and family. So things like books, podcasts, documentaries, all of those things are great just to give them to continue their education, just so you don't feel like all of that knowledge is having to come from you personally, especially if you're not super confident in what you know about the subject. So, although incredibly valid, our emotions can be extremely strong, especially when we're talking about genocide. Unfortunately, again, that can reinforce negative perceptions about us and the cause, and cause harm to the other individuals and shut them off completely, which is totally not what we want to be doing. So some communication strategies, some of these you probably learned in the de-escalation workshop, so I'll go over them quickly. Active listening. Instead of immediately going into a defensive mode, you want to make sure to let them speak, listen to what they have to say, and try to find some common ground with them. Be aware of your body and their body. Are their shoulders tensing up? Are you noticing that you're getting a little bit dizzy, lightheaded? Are your fingers clenched? And are they raising their volume? Are you raising your volume? Are you clenching your teeth? All of those things. Avoid triggering words. Telling someone to calm down almost never works. And they usually end up will raise their voice. And then also like use statements or like absolute statements like you are always this way or you never listen to me. Those things can be counterproductive when having these conversations with family. And I think most importantly, it's crucial to reaffirm your relationship with your loved one. So some examples of reaffirming phrases could be, I value your opinion because I love you, but, and then you can trail off. We've known each other for X amount of years, like you know me, you know the person I am. Or our relationship is important to both of us, I know that. So coming from a place that you're telling them you value this relationship, it's not something you want to lose, but this is something that's also very important to you. So continued, you can suggest another time to continue the conversation. So an example, it seems that we both have a lot to say. Can we talk about this another time? Acknowledge your temper rising. I'm feeling blank. Because of that, I'm choosing to stop talking about this right now. Ask for help if available. A friend or partner can suggest to leave if they notice tempers rising. You can have just like a cue. So on the sheets I gave you, like what is a trigger word or what's a phrase that's your cutoff point when you're done engaging with that other person. And then finally, stop engaging, walk away, stop talking, have a neutral face, because things can go downhill very, very quickly. So when to create boundaries, if you notice that you're having circular arguments with your friends, and they're not going anywhere, you might need to put a boundary up. If there's toxic talk, if they're calling you a T word, if they're calling you horrible names, again, that is another place where you may have to put up a boundary. If it starts affecting your daily life, your self-worth, if you're in physical distress over this relationship when discussing this topic, those are all cues for you that you need to be doing something about this. If it's setting up a boundary that you're not going to discuss Palestinian rights with them at all, if you're going to go no contact with them, if you're only going to interact with them at other family events, if you will no longer invite them to your home, whatever that looks like for you. Again, I'm not telling you what you should do, it's more what you feel you are mentally prepared for handling. And then enforcing them. Clear communication with the person. So an example, we'll go through examples on the next page. Maintaining consistency. If your friend or family member knows that you've broken their boundary, they're going to be like, oh, you don't really mean what you say. You need to mean what you say. Use neutral phrases and prepare for violations on the opposite end. So prepare in advance, what will you do if one of those boundaries is crossed? Example of boundaries could be, if you bring this up with me again, I will not discuss it with you. If you say something rude directed at me, my friends, the movement, I will walk away or leave the event. Do not talk to my children about your view or we will leave. If you call me a T word again or insinuate that, I will not speak to you. These are all things you can either say or have an internal boundary as well. So especially in the last one, if they call me a T word again or insinuate that, I will go no contact. But that would open it up to, if the person asks you why in the future, you can be blunt about it. Unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable talking to you anymore. I don't appreciate you calling me that word.
Does T stand for threatening?
Terrorist. But yeah, I mean threatening, sure too. More examples of boundaries, what those look like, could be examples for yourself. If this topic is brought up by this family member, I will gently respond with a question like, why do you think that? If someone asks for my opinion, I will say, I have many opinions about this topic that I'd love to share, but maybe we can talk about it another time. If my boundaries are crossed, I am responsible for maintaining it. So if someone texts you something, are you going to reply to it? Is that going to be a personal boundary that you have? I'm not going to engage over this by text message. That can be a simple personal boundary. I'm not going to engage on social media. If I feel too uncomfortable, I will leave. Is another one that you don't have to share with the rest of the world. That can just be your own personal boundary. Now, we'll move on to a fun part, which is a group simulation. We have enough people that I think we can break off into 3 groups. The group simulations, I'll have you as a group, like one person read out the context portion, and then pick 2 people in your group to take on the roles of the scripted dialogue. This isn't going to be performed in front of everybody, it's just going to be to read aloud. After you're done reading that, you'll, as a group, discuss what went wrong, what could have been better, how could it have been handled differently, is there a learning opportunity, are there risks? So we have an unconcerned and passive friend, script, a holiday dinner, which is pretty relevant, and living with a Christian Zionist are the 3 options. I have some group discussion guides, and then extra discussion prompts if you're done talking about this, which I doubt will be the case, but in case you want to talk about more things, there's a bunch of other prompts you can go through. So I'll number you off by 3s, and so then we'll have 1s in this section, 2s probably